Back in 2001, George O'Leary earned his dream job, to be the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The job would only last 5 days, and during those 5 days, inconsistencies in O'Leary's resume would start to come out. His dream job would soon turn into his nightmare, as O'Leary saw his coaching career collapse in front of his eyes. The George O'Leary scandal at Notre Dame changed the way colleges hired their head coaches and changed the college football landscape for forever. So what happened? Stay tuned to find out. George O'Leary is originally from New York, spending the first part of his childhood in Manhattan before moving to Long Island, and was one of 8 children. While his other siblings showed more athleticism and more skill in sports, George was described as thick and blunt, and was also known as loyal and hard-nosed. He was a B&C student. When it came to football, he was tough on the field. A crazy story I came across was during his sophomore year, he actually hurt his neck and was supposed to be out for a while. The doctors had to create a contraption to help his neck heal, but after 2 days, he got annoyed, said this was bullshit, tore the thing apart, and ended up practicing later that week and played in that same game. O'Leary was a B&C student, did not really catch the attention of college coaches coming out of high school, even though he led his school to an undefeated record his senior year. Only a few schools really showed interest in O'Leary, specifically only one, Dubuque College in Iowa. Because it was the only opportunity to continue his football career, O'Leary, who at the time the farthest he had been away from home was the Jersey Shore, decided to board the bus and head to the Division III school in Iowa. When O'Leary first got to Dubuque College, he was towards the bottom half of the depth chart for the quarterback position, so he was moved to the fullback position, where he still found himself at the bottom half of the roster. O'Leary not only struggled on the football field, but also academically, and ended up actually quitting the football team after 1 year. He debated about transferring out to move closer back home, but couldn't actually motivate himself to actually do the paperwork to transfer. So he returned to Dubuque College for 1 more year, where team he had grown up watching every Saturday. He decided to move back home to Long Island, and his dad, who had moved up from a custodial position to now was a school board president, needed his son to be in college to hold up the image. So he talked to some of his connections and got his son a spot on the New Hampshire football team and a spot in the school. A few days after leaving for New Hampshire, O'Leary returned home, having quit the football team before he even started practicing with the team. His father, who was now pissed, asked George what he was going to do next. George said, "I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. Maybe I'll join the service." His father's response, "George, you're going to college." So after 3 days of unbearable silence, George returned to New Hampshire, where over the next few years, he finished a physical education degree and returned home to get his first job in Long Island, helped by his dad as a physical education teacher and as an assistant football coach as well, back at his hometown high school. O'Leary, who was now coaching kids he was only a few years older than, had to instill the value of never quitting and putting in the hard work to achieve the goals they want to achieve, whether that was in their personal lives or as a team. O'Leary, who had quit 2 football teams in as many years, needed to kind of hide that fact and needed to hold himself accountable. He had a Woody Hayes type of mentality when it came to coaching. Integrity, hard-nosed, and never give up. As long as you refuse to quit, you could achieve anything you want. His teams found a lot of success, and he quickly rose up the ranks as a high school football coach. But as the 70s came to a close, questions around his resume, specifically his playing time at New Hampshire, which he lied about and said he played 3 years at New Hampshire, was successful and had parents writing to their schools saying how great of a coach he was and how great of a leader he was for their kids, was brought into the room of the athletic director. He got asked, "Did you lie on your resume?" Which O'Leary responded, "Doesn't everybody lie on their resume?" And no questions were asked from there. I mean, the kids were having a great time being coached by this guy. The parents were proud and loved the way he was developing the kids. So how could you fire a guy who was finding a lot of success, even though he might have lied about a little detail on his resume? That small little detail, that small little lie would soon grow into even bigger ones when he got hired to be a defensive coach at Syracuse University. When he was filling out his bio, he lied about winning a county championship while playing basketball. They lost in the county championship game. He lied about being a 3-year letter winner at New Hampshire. But this was a time where background checks weren't really done when it came to coaches. It was more based off of your performance and the trust you developed. He would soon be hired at Georgia Tech, and then would make the jump to the NFL for a few years before returning to Georgia Tech as the football head coach. He was playing this gimmick. He was a guy who said, "Don't ever quit, refuse to quit, put in the work and work hard." So how could a guy who quit ever be honest about that if that's the values he wanted to instill in his players? Now, some of you might be sitting here saying, why would you lie about this? This is terrible. But if you really think about it, remember when you were a high school football player or a Pop Warner player, your coaches wanted you to fight to the end, give it all you got. So George was literally just doing that, but as the Young Rock TV show would put it, he was playing the gimmick. He had to be bigger than life. He had to be a leader. So how could he ever be honest about quitting college football? As the lies got kind of crazier, things started to tumble. George, when he got hired to be the head coach at Georgia Tech, which he found a lot of success at Georgia Tech as a head coach, when writing out his bio, ended up writing that he got a master's degree at NYU. He never attended NYU and only had taken a few master's degree courses. But no one questioned it. No one double checked it. It just wasn't what they did during the time. And then came the Notre Dame head coaching job. George, who had dreamed about being the Notre Dame head coach, was offered the head coaching job and accepted it and held that position for 5 days. And over those 5 days, the little lies George had added here and there started to come out. A reporter decided to go interview New Hampshire players who would have been playing with George at the time, and they had no idea who the guy was. So when that hit the news, a school like Notre Dame with a coach lying about playing football, he was viewed as a huge scandal. But that's not where it stopped, and Notre Dame was fine with him lying about his playing career. They're like, as long as that's the only lie, you've proven you could be successful on the football field, just tell us now if there's any lies. Because if anything else comes out, we can't go to bat for you. You just be honest with us now. And George, who had been playing this gimmick and keeping this gimmick going for so many years, continued playing the gimmick and said, nope, that's the only lie on my resume. And that's the only lie he thought he had, because he didn't realize Notre Dame had moved the whole biography at Georgia Tech, which mentioned his NYU master's degree, 3 years playing college football at New Hampshire, had moved that over. And when the news broke about George lying about his graduate degree, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Notre Dame couldn't have a coach lying about a degree as their head coach. No matter how successful he was, they're an academic institution, and a pretty darn good one at that. So after 5 days, O'Leary was relieved of his duties and he resigned. This created a lasting effect on the college football landscape. Now, before this stuff, colleges never did background checks on head coaches' resumes, which to me just is wild. I get it, but it is wild. You're giving these guys millions of dollar contracts at public universities, and you're not double checking their backgrounds. You're not saying, okay, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? It seems so standard in 2022, but that's before the technology made it so easy, to my understanding. Granted, I was 2 years old when this whole scandal broke. But it's just wild to me that schools didn't do background checks. O'Leary, who had such a successful coaching career, was now being put on the front page as a liar. Pinocchio photos. His life was crumbling. And he just prayed to God, help me get out of here. Like, help me out. I don't know what to do. And one of his former players, who was now working with the Minnesota Vikings, decided to bring him onto the defensive staff. O'Leary finished his coaching career as the head coach at UCF, which there were some controversial times while he was at UCF, but he still found a lot of success. Though O'Leary's scandal is one of the craziest things I've come across, and is something that is not the only scandal in college football. So if you like these scandal videos and want to see more of these videos, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know if there's any college football scandals that you know about that you want me to talk about on this channel. I really would appreciate it, because I had fun researching this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.